I'm Andy Hopkinson, I'm Bedfordshire's Chief Fire Officer. I'm going to read a prepared statement and then I'm more than happy to take any questions in relation to this incident. Bedfordshire Fire and Rescue Services Fire Control received an initial 999 call at just 8:47 p.m. yesterday evening, reporting a car on fire on the third floor of the terminal car park behind me here in London. Our first two fire appliances arrived on scene just a shade under 10 minutes later to work alongside firefighters from Luton Airport Fire Service. On arrival, my officers were faced with a severe and rapidly spreading fire involving a large number of vehicles that ultimately spread to multiple floors and involved a partial collapse of the car park. The incident was declared a major incident at 9:38 p.m. And the car park behind me has a capacity of just over 1,900 cars. We estimate approximately up to 1,500 cars are in the car park, the affected car park at the time. At its peak, we had 15 fire appliances, over 100 firefighters, and a number of specialist resources, including the one you'll see over my right-hand shoulder, with resources provided with neighbouring fire and rescue services. All flights were suspended, and that will remain the case until at least 3 p.m. this afternoon. Any travellers who are affected should contact their airline, and anyone with a car in the car park or any of the car parks behind me should check the Luton Airport website. Firefighting operations were very much focused on protecting and preserving life, so the evacuation of the car park, containing and extinguishing the fire within the affected part of the building behind me, but also trying to make sure that we protect and I believe successfully the adjacent car park of another 1,500 vehicles, which is just over to my left, and a number of aircraft that were in close proximity on the air side behind the building behind me, and also just out of sight is the new Luton Airport DART, which provides the new transit line. And I'm pleased to say that we've managed to protect, and you can see behind me that a number of the vehicles were protected in the car park affected. I can advise that thanks to the early intervention of airport staff and firefighters, no injuries were reported to any members of the public. 4 of my firefighters did receive medical attention due to some mild smoke inhalation, but I can advise that they've all been discharged and are fine, and a further 1 airport worker also was treated for mild smoke inhalation, but they've also been released and they are fine as well. In terms of cause, we clearly remain in the response phase. We're working hard with our airport colleagues to get the airport open as quickly as possible, but we have no intelligence at this stage to suggest that this was anything other than an accidental fire that started in one of the vehicles that had not long arrived at the airport. And as I said, this is supporting airport colleagues to get the airport open as soon as possible. It's very much been a multi-agency response, and I'm immensely grateful to our Blue Light and local resilience forum partners who've worked tirelessly through the night to get us to a stage, as you can see, the fire extinguished with the odd hotspot. And I'd also like to thank my officers and control staff for their amazing response, along with the support from colleagues from Buckinghamshire, Cambridgeshire, Hertfordshire, Northamptonshire, and we've been joined this morning with colleagues from London Fire Brigade as well. And happy to take any questions.
Hi, Nick Ellaby, Talk TV. A lot of speculation it was an EV car, because that's what people like to say. Do you know exactly what type of car caused this fire?
The intelligence we've got so far, it was not an EV. This was a diesel-powered, vehicle, but obviously subject to triangulation verification once the investigation.
And how did it spread so quickly? Did it to other cars nearby?
Yeah, as we arrived, we've got a large number of vehicles in close proximity. That fire rapidly developed, and then spread, but there was nothing untoward. It was just close confines, large number of vehicles in a confined area, but we have no other indications other than, like I said, it was accidental.
Matthew Thompson, Sky News. I'm just wondering, what's the current structural state of the car park? Is there any further risk of collapse?
Well, obviously we've got structural engineers on site supporting. There has, you probably might not be able to see, but there has been quite a significant collapse at the back of the building. But we are, we'll continue to assess. Yes, there is potential risk of further collapse, but we'll be working with our colleagues to make sure that the incident doesn't escalate any
Any
further.
sense of the number of vehicles that were actually caught up in the collapse rather than the number that were in the car park?
The car park was approximately 2/3 full, so anything between 12 and 1,500. I don't have the exact number of how many vehicles were directly involved in the fire, but as you can see over my left shoulder, the firefighters have done a tremendous job in preventing the total involvement, as well as protecting the exposure risk that I've already mentioned.
Greg McKenzie from BBC News. So 12 o'clock you were told the airport would open, now it's 3. Is that a definite 3 or do you think it might be later this evening?
Well, the earliest, talking to airport colleagues, 3 p.m. is the earliest that we'll reopen, but obviously once I'm done here, there is another multi-agency meeting, and then we'll keep it under review. But our whole focus is trying to get this airport reopened as quickly as possible.
Simon Calder from The Independent. Can you tell us what the restrictions are? Because clearly you've got this under control, and thank you for that. The terminal is open, it's full of people.
Yeah.
The runway presumably is clear, so it's difficult to understand why flights aren't operating now.
At the moment, obviously the airlines are working to try and get their plans to get them back up and running. In order to deal with the size of the fire, we've had to close a number of roads, and we've actually laid a temporary water main to supplement water supplies on the site, and that's predominantly people be able to access in and out of the airport, which is causing delay.
Coming back to the cause of the fire, you said obviously it started in possibly a diesel-powered vehicle.
Yeah.
Were any electrical vehicles involved in the fire that were parked in there?
Clearly, I don't know the exact number, but we have got there's a recharging station in there, and I know that there will be a number of EV or hybrid vehicles involved, but we still need to explore that further.
So in terms of obviously the new technology with the thermal runaway, how did your firefighters manage to deal with that?
It's the vehicles that originally, we train regularly on how to deal with EV fires, and at the moment there is no indication that causes any additional problems in tackling the fire here.
Sorry, Head Thomas, 26 Radio. We understand the wind was blowing away from the airport.
Yeah.
Had it blown towards the airport, could the situation have been much worse?
Yeah, clearly, one of the things that we look at is both the airborne contamination, but we were grateful that the wind was blowing away from the airport across the Weald. So, at no time did we have any concerns about the air quality. One of the other things that we were looking at is the groundborne, because obviously a large volume of water, and a fire of that size would create a lot of contaminants. But we've been working with the Environment Agency and the airport. This site with the new car park has got interceptors to collect any sort of water to protect any of the neighbouring watercourses. And the Environment Agency so far are happy with the way that we've protected those watercourses.
And have you got reports of smoke affecting different localities around Luton Airport?
We've had no report. Obviously, we did put some messaging out if anyone's affected to close their windows and doors. But the fact that it's blowing away from the conurbation that way, it has been worked in our favour.
What were the conditions like for the firefighters tackling the fire?
Yeah, clearly very arduous, and obviously with it originating on the 3rd floor, even accessing that, was caused a challenge. But as I said, they've done a tremendous job. Once the building became unstable, they moved to what we call a defensive firefighting to tackle it from the outside, and the open nature of the building allowed us to do that, with relative ease.
Obviously it's a fairly new car park that's just recently been fitted. Did it have a sprinkler system fitted to
I'm
it?
not aware, that it did, but obviously we'll be working with, the airport operators to talk about what in terms of restoration.
And obviously in terms of the dry riser, did that perform?
I've had no reports that all the firefighting facilities worked as expected, as you would do with a new building like this.
Do you have any idea of the timescale of your cruise operation here today?
We're likely to have a presence here, for some extended, probably into the evening, into tomorrow, because obviously we've got a large volume of cars, some of which are compacted from the collapse, so we'll be here well into tomorrow and possibly beyond. But what we're working to do is to get the rest of the airport open and back up and running as best as we can.
A lot of cars still in there. Any chance that any more of those cars will come down?
At the moment, we're not seeing anything that suggests that there's any risk of imminent collapse, but obviously we'll work with the structural engineers and try and recover any of the unaffected vehicles as quickly as possible. Okay, great. Thanks, everyone.